And we're back for another episode of Won't Be Silent. I have an amazing guest, Nomi Gedzelman. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Nomi Gedzelman. I'm a senior in high school and I'm 18 years old, and I live in New York City in central Harlem.
And what's so amazing about Nomi and why we're here today is that we are both on the slate for the Jewish Future in the World Zionist Congress election that is still on, and we have until May 4th. So after this incredible conversation we're about to have, you stop what you're doing and vote. But how thrilling is it that you're part of this process?
Um, as an 18-year-old, it's one of the first big things that I'm really taking on, and it's so amazing to be part of something so big and so important to the Jewish people and to the future of the Jewish people. And but it also just feels kind of like a natural continuation of how I've been raised and my Zionist roots.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in the social media landscape now, the word Zionist has become such a like an N word almost that I think it's so awesome that you'll stand proud with that. You want to tell us about what your history is within the Jewish community that brings you to this moment?
Sure, for sure. So both of my parents are Jewish professionals, and I've been raised in a Jewish community with attending three different synagogues, changing it up every week, going to a Hebrew language charter school and learning the Hebrew language and about Zionism and Israeli culture. Not really that as much about Judaism there, but just really embracing and learning about Israelis and having Israeli teachers. Um, I went to uh, a Jewish private school for middle school, and then since then I have taken a role in young leadership role in Young Judea in youth Zionist youth movement, and I have become the president of my Jewish Student Union, which all of this just came naturally because of my foundation of the schools that I went to and the communities that I've always been a part of and the people that have surrounded me who are just so naturally involved in the Jewish community. And it's not like a job or a role, it just comes natural to them and it's a part of them, which has been ingrained in me.
It's almost like it's going to sound weird, but it's almost like I'm a little jealous because when I was your age, I was such a mess. You know what I mean? Even though I did attend young Judea for a couple of years, like after school or whatever, but it was the 70s. We were all like such messes and just going there to get away from our family and go get high, whatever, a whole nother story. But I really admire people, especially now. Was that me or you?
No, that was me. That was my Alexa.
Yeah, so it's just so admirable to see young people getting a sense of who they are and their culture. Whereas I was, an assimilated Jew for many, many years. And I look back now because I'm so entrenched in what I do want to do going forward for the rest of my life in terms of being part of saving our people from all these angry lunatics that have kind of emerged as a result of the October 7th war. I mean, I have been on the receiving end of anti-Semitism my whole life. Um, but this is just something the fact that I could say I'm grateful that my parents are not here with me to see this just shows to what an extent this is a problem.
Right. Well, trust me, I am stressed out. And sometimes I do feel like a mess, but I've got a lot of support and I'm very thankful for that. Um, but yeah, it's something that I never thought that I like the anti-Semitism that I experienced is something I never thought that I would experience. And it always felt so distant because I mean, of course I've learned about the Holocaust in detail and read books and I felt like it was something that happened to my people, but it was something that happened to my people that I live in New York and everyone around me acknowledged. And I was surrounded by kids, mostly Jews, even in public schools, so many Jews, not mostly Jews, but so many Jews, or people that have been surrounded by Jews their whole lives. And maybe like a few anti-Semitic comments here and there, but I just like took a deep breath and walked past it. And it's something different when it feels like people say these things and they don't even think it's anti-Semitic, and that's what makes it even more anti-Semitic. Like they're hiding behind these statements that have been deemed to be okay because it's anti-Zionist and it's not anti-Semitic, but they definitely, in my opinion, like I think that they can be different things, but so often they like intertwine. And I have some of my friends at school or some people in my school just saying things that they don't realize, and they're not trying to be anti-Semitic, but it unfortunately happens.
You know what? I feel like the way forward for us as a people is to first and foremost own the word Zionist in the same way Black people took back the N word, and that's not, you can't use it. That's how good we have to be with that word. That's the process. We have to, I do posts all the time that go, yeah, call me a Zio. Thank you. My dad was one. He was a superhero. Yes, that's okay. What is Zio? What is a Zionist? Going home to the land where we started, Abraham, by the way. But that is the essence of what it is. It's going home. It's like freaking Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. All she wants to do is go home. Like, if you
Right.
can look at it from the way of its simplicity and its beauty and extrapolate all that other stuff that people lay onto it, that's our job. And that is, I mean, I believe, which is why I so want to be part of the Zionist Congress, because of the things that we allocate funds for, is that we need to be able to address from a media cultural standpoint to look what the Qataris done with their PR. They are brilliant marketers,
Right.
genius, long range strategies, baby steps, boom, boom, boom. Let's do this 5 years. We need a 5 year plan just to work on that word. You know what I mean? And a million other things. There's no question.
Right. One of my friends at school wrote an article about the definition of Zionism. I don't think she was allowed to I don't think that was the exact name. Anyway, that was the idea. And she went up to different people in my school and asked them, what do you think of Zionism? And surprisingly, there was a pretty positive response. Um, and which felt heartwarming, and it felt like I had more support than I thought. But I also think some people had questionable, what is Zionism? I don't know. I've heard it's a bad thing. And they actually listened to it. Just means that Jews have the right to have a homeland in Israel. And they said, okay, then I guess I am a Zionist. And regardless of political beliefs, like who knows what they thought, but they were able to understand it from that viewpoint. And I think like that's where part of the money needs to go, like the education, and from such a young age, Jewish education, to give people a background and a foundation to be a Jewish leader, but also to educate kids and teens about what Zionism is, maybe through the
Yeah.
media, maybe through schools.
No,
Yeah.
it's definitely education, of course, because you can never have enough of that. Trusted, I'm a dropout from college, whatever. But it's also social engagement. It's
Right.
also educating from the other perspective of how people get information. I mean, we are accosted with so much dis and misinformation through this. Look, the social platforms are not going away. Yes, their algorithm is now the new boogeyman, because nobody knows how that's controlled and who's going to be getting the views and the likes, and who you have to kind of chase in order to get your vision. And but I believe that that's something we need to kind of crack and navigate through and try to figure out.
Right. Like
I'd love to read
addressing,
that article if you can send it to me.
yeah, of course, of course. I think it's through my school's newspaper, so. I
Yeah,
would
no,
have
no,
to
I'd love
say.
to see that.
Yes. Um, yeah, I think because I come from an very academic like very academic school where everybody's always reading the news, it feels like everyone's searching for education or like wants it, but in other circumstances, people just see a post, see your post or see someone else's post, and that's their education.
Right.
That's their media. That's like what they're digesting. And it's important to figure out some way, like you were saying, to regardless of what the algorithm does, to get the message that we want out there.
We have to infiltrate. We have to be smart. Like the whole thing about there's a movie that I think everyone should see. It should be in every school system. It's called The Long Way Home. It won the Oscar for Best Documentary in 1997. And it's about how Israel started. And it starts with the Holocaust. And it's 2 hours of mandatory watching with it's so inspiring. Was so moved. And it was just recently, I mean, you can't be moved enough to just remember who we are as people, what we've survived from over the thousands of years of being chased around the friggin' planet, like whatever. But this is a movie that should be mandatory viewing, period. And you just can't not find how best to respect where we come from enough, and going forward, because we're now dealing in a world which is kind of monopolized by social media and media bias too. Forget the social media part, like the New York Times and all the legacy media, they're all biased against Israel. So our jobs is to do what the Bricha and those people who joined the undergrounds during the war that brought us to this place of, I look at it in a kind of weird kind of way, which this week I thought of, which is we lost 6 million Jews in the Holocaust in order to get Israel. So that was what we suffered to get this amazing jewel, right? What happened in October 7th and what's still continuing to be just an ongoing catastrophe is so much less of what we're losing in order to get Israel to the next safer space. Like the next jewel is a peaceful solution towards Israel, right? So hopefully we don't have to lose that many people.
Right. So that's the question. How do we go about a safe way of doing so? How do we how do we do it? We're fighting something. It feels like we're being attacked, but we don't want to lose so many people. And I mean, it makes me think like I don't normally think of it that way. That's how we got Israel, but it does make me think like Israel's supposed to be this it's supposed to guarantee us safety. And at this point, like I don't want to say what have we done wrong, but what can we do right to make sure that October 7th does not happen again and that we can guarantee safety for the diaspora, for what's happened since October 7th on campuses and in high schools. I'm sure it's happening in middle schools as well, but the rise in anti-Semitism, and how do we protect Jews in Israel? Like
Well,
how can
the
we
thing is,
guarantee that without losing anything?
yeah, well, the thing is, I was just watching a video on YouTube earlier where the guy was saying Egypt was as bad when Egypt was attacking Israel twice. They ultimately made the decision for peace because Israel kicked the shit out of them and whatever. So that's why the idea is, there's no laying down there's no laying down our arms until Hamas is finished. And it's unfortunate the way war is happening and what could we do better in terms of not destroying so many innocent Palestinian lives? I'm not into that either. You know what I mean? I'm not from the hysterical far right, just flatten it, and, like, no, I'm not into the Middle East Mar-a-Lago. I mean, none of that is real. None of that's going to make us safe here in America. And then again, the Israeli politics is making us unsafe here in America. So that has to change. They have to go away, Hamas. The Arab countries that are part of the Abraham Accords need to like snap out of it, and Qatar needs to go fuck itself, as far as I'm concerned, because funding all this. And what's so brilliant about it is it's not just the universities, it's the fashion industry. They have like 40 movies coming out. The Doha Institute is a film, they fund films. It's like all these films that are coming out now about the Palestinian cause, and like, oh, poor me. The thing is, you can only be a victim, you can only feel sorry for victims for so long. You know what I mean? And as long as they're just going to position themselves, the Palestinians, no other land, they're all like, but they go, well, we've been here since the 1800s. And I'm like, yeah, you couldn't have created one like area of earth that sounds like it's like dead land. You know what I mean? It's just like barren, yeah, it's just, yeah, it is.
So how do we move forward? And how I think it's important to address that, like being able to decide where to allocate the money is engaging in these conversations and being able to and wanting to hear different, because we're here, we're sitting here, we're trying to figure out like what's the answer to guarantee safety, to guarantee some sort of peace, and we want to have these conversations, and that's part of education too. That's part of like enriching yourself and trying to better the world.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be a process, and hopefully you and I will be able to sit there at a table and listen to people's pitches towards, I feel like we'll be like, okay, what do you want money for, bitch? I know it's nothing like that, but I'm like romancing it to us be like,
Something more
all
fun.
right, dance. Anyway, well, it's a pleasure to meet with you and talk to you and get to know you.
Likewise.
Do hope that we can break bread in Jerusalem in October. I'm just going to work hard. I mean, I have no question that at least what we represent in terms of our slate is this moderate space where we're not far left, we're not far right, we're not advocating for either government currently in America or Israel, because that's not our job. Our job is to save our people through smart, incentivized organizations that really want to see the best for us.
Right. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
This has truly been amazing.
It's been a pleasure.
So fun. Yes.
I will see you soon. I'll let you know when this goes live.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.